She's a CEO walled off by success and a wheelchair. He's a single dad scarred by loss. One Chicago night, his daring act ignites a spark. Can love heal their broken pasts? Watch their unforgettable love story unfold. The restaurant door opened with a soft chime, and Lucas Reed's world shifted on its axis. He'd been sitting at the corner table for exactly 10 minutes, his water glass already half empty. From nervous sips, his tie adjusted 3 times since arriving. Eliza's words from an hour earlier still echoed in his mind. "Dad, you deserve to be happy again. Mom would want this for you." His 16-year-old daughter had practically pushed him out the door, fixing his collar, and reminding him that his colleague Anna Parker said this woman was special, a successful businesswoman who shared his love of documentary films. The warmth of Morello's enveloped him. Soft lighting, the gentle murmur of conversations, the rich aroma of garlic and wine. But all of that faded the moment she entered. Victoria Sterling glided through the doorway in a sleek, modern wheelchair, and Lucas's breath caught in his throat. She was stunning blonde hair pulled back in an elegant bun, sharp cheekbones highlighted by the restaurant's golden light, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than his monthly freelance writing income. But it wasn't her beauty that made his chest tighten. It was the familiar way she paused at the threshold, her green eyes quickly scanning the restaurant's layout, calculating obstacles and pathways with practiced efficiency. Lucas knew that scan. He'd watched someone else make those same calculations 1,000 times before. The hostess approached Victoria with an awkward smile, clearly flustered. We can seat you, but there's a small step up to the main dining area." "The step's too high," Lucas said, appearing beside them so suddenly that Victoria startled. His voice was gentle but certain. "But there's a ramp entrance through the side patio. I noticed it when I arrived." Victoria looked up at him, her professional mask slipping just slightly to reveal surprise. "You must be Lucas." "I am." He smiled, and something warm flickered in her eyes. "May I show you the way? Lad on." As they settled at their table, Victoria studied him with the sharp focus of someone accustomed to reading people quickly. Most people either stare or pretend not to notice at all. You did neither. Lucas set down his menu, meeting her gaze directly. "Should I have pretended not to notice? No, I." She paused, caught off guard by his straightforwardness. "It's just unusual. Most men on first dates either act like my wheelchair doesn't exist or treat it like it's the most important thing about me. Which would you prefer?" She laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her entire face. "Neither, actually. I'd prefer they just see it as part of who I am, like the color of your eyes, or the way you laugh," Lucas said simply. Something shifted in Victoria's expression, a wall cracking, just slightly. Exactly like that. The waiter appeared, and as they ordered, Lucas found himself watching Victoria navigate the interaction with quiet confidence. She asked about ingredients with the knowledge of someone who knew exactly what she wanted, recommended wine pairings, with the casual expertise of someone who dined in places far fancier than this. So Victoria said, once the waiter left, "Anna Parker tells me you're a freelance journalist. That must be challenging." Lucas smiled at the diplomatic understatement. "Readers are basically tiny tornadoes of emotion and strong opinions, but they're also incredibly honest. They'll tell you exactly what they think of your article, your tie, and your life choices, usually all in the same comment section. Sounds terrifying. It keeps me humble." Lucas took a sip of wine. "Anna Parker mentioned you work in media, but she was pretty mysterious about the details." Victoria's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Sterling Media. I'm the CEO." Lucas nearly choked on his wine. Sterling Media, as in the company that's been in the news for revolutionizing digital content creation. Guilty as charged. Wow, my daughter Eliza is going to flip when I tell her. She's interested in journalism, and I think I remember her mentioning your company's work on inclusive media campaigns. Lucas shook his head in amazement. She follows media industry leaders pretty closely. She reads Forbes for fun and studies business leaders. She'll probably have a million questions about your career path. Smart kid. How old is she? 16, going on 35. She's been the adult in our relationship since, well, for a while now. Victoria caught the shift in his tone but didn't push. Instead, she leaned forward slightly. Tell me about her. For the next 20 minutes, Lucas's face lit up as he shared stories about Eliza. Her quick wit, her determination to master calculus, her habit of leaving motivational post-it notes on his bathroom mirror. Victoria found herself genuinely captivated, not just by his obvious love for his daughter, but by the gentle way he spoke about parenting challenges, his respect for Eliza's independence, his pride in her resilience. She sounds remarkable, Victoria said as their appetizers arrived. She is. She's had to be. Lucas's expression grew thoughtful. Kids have an amazing capacity to adapt when life demands it of them. Something in his voice made Victoria set down her fork. Demands it of them. Lucas was quiet for a moment, seeming to weigh his words. Eliza lost her mother 4 years ago. She had to grow up faster than any kid should have to. Oh, Lucas, I'm so sorry. Thank you. He met her eyes. It was a long illness. 3 years of watching someone you love fight a battle that can't win. Eliza was incredible through all of it. Stronger than I was, honestly. Victoria felt her chest tighten with unexpected emotion. What was her name? Sarah Rivers. Lucas's smile was soft, tinged with old grief. She would have liked you, I think. She always said she could tell a lot about a person by how they treated waitstaff and whether they looked people in the eye when they talked. 2 tests I apparently passed, with flying colors. They ate in comfortable silence for a few moments before Victoria spoke again. Can I ask what happened? You don't have to answer if it's too difficult. Lucas considered this, then nodded slowly. Sarah Rivers had a rare autoimmune disease. It started with joint pain fatigue. We thought it was stress from her job as a community counselor, but it progressed quickly. Within a year, she needed mobility aids. Within 2, she was in a wheelchair full-time. Victoria's breath caught. The casual way he'd mentioned the wheelchair, his immediate understanding of her navigation needs at the restaurant. It all made sense now. That's why you knew about the ramp, she said softly. Among other things, Lucas's voice was gentle. I learned to see the world through different eyes during those years. To notice curb cuts and door widths and bathroom accessibility, to understand that most of the barriers aren't physical. They're in how people react. Victoria stared at him, pieces clicking into place. Most people don't have that education. No, they don't. And honestly, I wish I'd never needed to learn it. But since I did well, it changed how I see things, how I see people. The weight of understanding settled between them. This wasn't pity or inspiration seeking. This was recognition from someone who'd walked a similar path. I was 28 when it happened. Horseback riding. I'd been competing since I was 12. Had Olympic aspirations. The horse spooked during a cross-country event. Threw me into a stone wall. Shattered 3 vertebrae. He listened without interrupting, without the awkward sympathy face she was used to receiving. The doctors were very clinical about it. Complete spinal cord injury, T12L1. No sensation or voluntary movement below the point of injury. They explained it like they were describing a broken appliance. How long was your recovery? 6 months in hospitals and rehab facilities. But the real recovery, learning who I was going to be now, that took years. Victoria traced the rim of her wine glass with her finger. I built Sterling Media from my hospital bed, actually started with consulting work on my laptop, grew it into something bigger. Partly because I needed the income, but mostly because I needed to prove that my mind was still sharp even if my legs weren't. Proving something to yourself or to others. Victoria considered this both. I think the media world already saw me as an anomaly. A woman in media was unusual enough. A woman in a wheelchair. I became either an inspiration story or a liability concern, never just a CEO. That must be exhausting. It is, though I've learned to use their underestimation to my advantage. They expect me to be fragile or grateful or inspiring. Instead, I'm ruthless. She grinned. It's very effective in negotiations. Lucas laughed. Remind me never to buy a used car from you, smart man. As their main courses arrived, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Eliza's college plans, Victoria's latest media ventures, their shared love of documentary films. But underneath the easy banter, something deeper was building. Lucas found himself studying Victoria's expressions, the way she gestured when she got excited about a topic, how her whole face changed when she laughed. There was a vitality about her that was magnetic, a fierce intelligence that drew him in. Victoria, meanwhile, was discovering that Lucas was nothing like the men she usually encountered. He didn't try to impress her with wealth or connections he didn't have. He didn't ask probing questions about her disability or treat her like an inspiration. He simply saw her, the whole of her. Can I tell you something? Victoria said, as they shared dessert. Of course. I almost canceled tonight. 3 times, actually. What changed your mind? Anna Parker, my colleague. She told me you had the gentlest heart she'd ever known. In my world, gentleness is rare. I was curious what that looked like. Lucas set down his fork, something vulnerable crossing his face. And what does it look like? Like someone who notices ramps without being asked. Like someone who talks about their daughter with pure joy, even when discussing loss. Like someone who sees strength instead of limitation. The air between them grew charged with possibility. Victoria, Lucas said quietly, I need to tell you something. I haven't been on a date since Sarah Rivers died. I wasn't sure I ever would be again. Well, what changed Eliza? She's been telling me for months that I need to start living again. He smiled ruefully. Tonight, she literally fixed my tie and told me that Mom would want me to be happy again, that I deserved to find that happiness. She practically pushed me out the door. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. Lucas's expression grew serious. But I want to be honest with you. I'm not sure I know how to do this anymore, dating. I mean, especially with someone as remarkable as you. Victoria felt her heart skip. Remarkable. You built an empire while rebuilding yourself. You're brilliant, beautiful, and you laugh like you mean it. You're completely out of my league. Lucas Reed, Victoria said firmly. You are a man who spent 3 years caring for someone you loved, who raised an incredible daughter through grief, who sees people for who they really are. Trust me, you're in exactly the right league. When the check arrived, Lucas reached for it automatically. Victoria moved to intercept, but he caught her hand gently, a brief touch that sent electricity through both of them. May I? He asked. Victoria started to protest. She made more in a month than he probably made in a year, but something in his expression stopped her. This is important to you. Yes. She nodded slowly. Then thank you. As Lucas signed the receipt, Victoria watched him, feeling something she hadn't experienced in years. The desire to be taken care of, not because she was incapable, but because someone wanted to care for her. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. "Anything. Doesn't it bother you, the wheelchair? I mean, most men see it and see burden, complications, limitations." Lucas set down his pen and looked directly at her. "Can I show you something?" At Victoria's nod, he pulled out his phone and scrolled through photos until he found the one he wanted. He turned the screen toward her. The image showed a woman in a wheelchair at what looked like a graduation ceremony. She was beautiful with dark hair and bright eyes surrounded by flowers and wearing the biggest smile Victoria had ever seen. Despite being obviously frail, she radiated pure joy. This was Sarah Rivers at Eliza's 8th grade graduation 3 months before she passed. Look at her face. She was in pain every day by then, frustrated by her limitations, scared of what was coming. But she was also fiercely alive, wickedly funny, and absolutely determined to squeeze every drop of joy from whatever time she had left. He put the phone away and met Victoria's eyes. The wheelchair was never the burden. The burden was watching someone I loved struggle and knowing I couldn't fix it. But Sarah Rivers taught me that fixing isn't always the point. Sometimes the point is just to be present, to see the person for who they are, not what they can or can't do. Victoria's eyes filled with tears she didn't try to hide. Most people see my success and think I've overcome my disability, but I haven't overcome it. I've integrated it. It's part of who I am now. And who you are is extraordinary, Lucas said simply. As they prepared to leave, Victoria navigated toward the door, then stopped suddenly. The entrance was blocked by a large group waiting to be seated, their bodies forming an impassable wall of coats and conversation. Lucas saw her shoulders tense as she calculated whether to ask them to move or wait it out. Without hesitation, Lucas stepped forward. "Excuse me, folks. Could we squeeze through? Thank you so much." His voice was warm but confident as he gently created a path, his hand barely touching Victoria's shoulder, to guide her through the crowd. Outside, the February air hit them like a slap, but Victoria barely noticed the cold. She turned to Lucas, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You know what struck me most tonight? What you never once offered to help me unless I actually needed it. You didn't assume incompetence, but you also didn't ignore genuine obstacles. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Lucas thought of Sarah Rivers, of the 1,000 small negotiations they'd made together, learning when to help and when to step back. "I had a good teacher." Victoria pulled on her gloves against the winter wind. "Eliza is lucky to have you as a father." "I'm the lucky one," Lucas replied. "She saved me after Sarah Rivers died. Gave me a reason to keep going when I wasn't sure I wanted to." "I'd love to meet her sometime," Victoria said carefully. "If you think she'd be comfortable with that." Lucas's smile could have powered the city. "She's been encouraging me to start dating again for months. And once I tell her who I had dinner with tonight, she'll probably have 100 questions prepared for you. Fair warning, though, she'll want to discuss media trends and ask for career advice. I like her already." Victoria's driver brought her adapted van around, the familiar hum of the wheelchair lift engaging. As she prepared to transfer, she looked up at Lucas. "I need to tell you something. I'm complicated. My life is busy, demanding. The wheelchair is just one part of it. Dating me wouldn't be easy." Lucas knelt down so they were at eye level, a gesture so natural that Victoria's breath caught. "Victoria, I spent 3 years watching the strongest woman I knew face impossible challenges with grace and humor. I learned that easy is overrated. Easy doesn't teach you anything. Easy doesn't show you what someone's made of. I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for real." Victoria reached out and touched his face, her fingers cold against his cheek. "You're not what I expected, Lucas Reed. Neither are you Victoria Sterling." She laughed. That same genuine sound from earlier. "I have a board meeting at 7 tomorrow morning that I'm completely unprepared for because I spent all day nervous about tonight. Was it worth it?" "Every single minute," she said softly. Then with a playful smile, "Though my shareholders might disagree." 2 weeks later, Victoria sat in Lucas's modest kitchen, watching him cook dinner, while Eliza peppered her with questions about digital media and content creation. The apartment was small but warm, filled with family photos and Eliza's academic awards and Lucas's article drafts scattered across every surface. "So when you started the company," Eliza was saying, her laptop open beside her plate, "were you scared about the market volatility in emerging media sectors?" Victoria nearly choked on her water. "Did you just ask me about market volatility?" Eliza reads, "Forbes for fun," Lucas explained, setting down a plate of pasta. "I've given up trying to understand her brain. I like to be informed about potential career paths," Eliza said with teenage dignity. "Victoria's company has amazing internship programs." "Eliza Carter," Lucas warned. "We talked about this. What I'm just saying, hypothetically." Victoria looked between father and daughter, seeing the easy affection, the gentle teasing, the way Lucas's whole face softened when he looked at Eliza. This was what love looked like in practice. Not grand gestures, but daily choices, small kindnesses, shared laughter over dinner. "Actually," Victoria said, "we do have a mentorship program for high school students interested in media fields. If you're genuinely interested, not just being polite." Eliza's eyes went wide. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. Send me your transcript and a personal statement about why media interests you. I'll see what I can do." Eliza launched herself around the table to hug Victoria, her enthusiasm infectious. Over her shoulder, Victoria met Lucas's eyes. He was looking at her with such warmth, such gratitude that she felt her heart skip. "Thank you," he mouthed silently. Later, after Eliza had gone to bed, clutching a stack of journalism books Victoria had brought, Lucas and Victoria sat on the small couch, her wheelchair positioned close enough that their knees almost touched. "She adores you," Lucas said. "The feeling is mutual. She's incredible, Lucas. Brilliant and kind and so much like you. She gets the brilliance from her mother. The kindness too, probably." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you something?" "Always. I've never wanted kids. My accident, my career, my lifestyle, it never seemed compatible. But watching you two tonight," she trailed off, unsure how to finish. "Tonight what? Tonight?" "I started wondering what it would be like to be part of something like this, a family." Lucas reached for her hand, lacing their fingers together. "Victoria, I know it's crazy. We've known each other 2 weeks. It's not crazy." His voice was quiet. "Sure. Sarah Rivers used to say that some people come into your life like seasons. They're meant to be temporary, to teach you something and then move on. But others come like gravity. They change your entire orbit." "Which am I?" Lucas lifted their joined hands and kissed her knuckles softly. "Your gravity, Victoria Sterling. You've been changing my orbit since the moment you rolled through that restaurant door." 3 months later, Victoria arrived at Lucas's apartment to find Eliza in tears at the kitchen table. College rejection letters spread before her. MIT said no. So did Stanford. "I'm never going to get into a good journalism program," Eliza Victoria said gently, settling her wheelchair beside the table. "Can I tell you something about rejection?" Eliza nodded, wiping her eyes. "Before I started Sterling Media, I pitched my business plan to 47 investors. 46 of them said no. They said I was too young, too inexperienced, too much of a risk. One told me that disabled entrepreneurs were inspiration stories, not investment opportunities. Eliza's eyes widened. What did you do? I found investor number 47. And then I built something so successful that the other 46 spent years regretting their choice. Victoria smiled. Sometimes rejection isn't about your worth. It's about their vision or lack thereof. But what if I'm not good enough, Eliza? You are one of the smartest people I know. And I run in circles with some pretty brilliant minds. These schools didn't reject you because you're not good enough. They rejected you because they have limited spots and tough choices to make. That doesn't define your potential. Lucas appeared in the doorway, having overheard the conversation. The look he gave Victoria was pure love. Besides, Victoria continued, some of the most innovative minds I know went to state schools or community colleges first. It's not where you start, it's what you do with the opportunities you get. Eliza managed a watery smile. Thanks, Victoria. Always, sweetheart. That night, after Eliza had gone to bed, feeling significantly better about her future, Lucas and Victoria sat in the garden behind his building. It was late spring now, the Chicago air finally losing its winter bite. You were amazing with her tonight. She's going to be fine, better than fine. She's going to change the world. I meant it. You know what I said about gravity? Victoria turned to look at him, struck by the seriousness in his voice. These past few months with you and Eliza, it's the happiest I've been since before Sarah Rivers got sick. Maybe the happiest I've ever been, period. Lucas. I love you, Victoria. I love your brilliant mind and your terrible jokes and the way you argue with news anchors on TV. I love how you see Eliza not as my daughter, who happens to be around, but as her own person, worthy of respect and investment. I love that you make me want to be better than I am. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I love you too so much. It terrifies me. Why does it terrify you? Because I've spent 5 years building walls to protect myself from exactly this, from someone who could hurt me if they left. Lucas reached for her hands. Victoria, look at me. She met his eyes, seeing nothing but steady love there. I'm not going anywhere. Not because of work pressure or social awkwardness or accessibility challenges or anything else. You're stuck with me. Promise, I promise. On one condition. What Lucas slid off the bench and onto one knee beside her wheelchair. Victoria's breath caught as he pulled out a small velvet box. Marry me, Victoria Sterling. Marry me, and let's build something beautiful together. Let's show Eliza what love looks like when it's brave and real and willing to take risks. Victoria stared at the ring, a simple solitaire, that caught the light from the building's windows, then looked up at Lucas's face, seeing hope and love and absolute certainty there. Yes, she whispered, then louder, laughing through her tears. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. As Lucas slipped the ring onto her finger, Victoria thought about the journey that had brought them here, the accident that had changed her life's trajectory. Sarah Rivers's illness that had taught Lucas to see beyond surface assumptions. Two people who had learned that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, seeing clearly, and choosing each other again and again. 6 months later, they married in the same restaurant where they'd had their first date. The ceremony, small and perfect. Eliza served as maid of honor, crying happy tears and taking approximately 300 photos. Victoria's parents, who had flown in from Boston, marveled at how their daughter glowed with happiness. During their vows, Lucas spoke about second chances and the courage to love again. Victoria talked about finding someone who saw her completely and loved all of it. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. But the moment that would stay with everyone who witnessed it was when Lucas, instead of the traditional kiss to seal their marriage, knelt down beside Victoria's wheelchair and took her face in his hands, kissing her with such tenderness that the photographer nearly forgot to capture it. Later at the reception, Eliza gave a toast that brought down the house. "Victoria," she said, raising her champagne glass, "thank you for showing my dad that his heart was big enough for more love. And Dad, thank you for showing Victoria that she deserved someone who would love all of her exactly as she is. You two are proof that the best love stories aren't about perfect people. They're about real people who choose to build something perfect together." Share this with someone who needs to remember that beautiful chapters can begin after loss. As Victoria and Lucas danced to their wedding song with Victoria in her chair and Lucas beside her, their movements perfectly synchronized, she caught sight of Eliza beaming at them from across the room. "What are you thinking about?" Lucas asked, spinning her chair gently. "I'm thinking about gravity," Victoria replied, "and how sometimes the most beautiful thing about falling is that you land exactly where you're supposed to be." Lucas smiled, understanding perfectly. "Here's to gravity, then. Here's to gravity, second chances, and love that sees clearly." They continued dancing as the Chicago skyline glittered beyond the windows. Two people who had learned that sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin not when we stop grieving what we've lost, but when we become brave enough to embrace what we might still find. The wheelchair sat beside their table later that evening, as natural as any other chair, and for the first time since Sarah Rivers's death, that felt exactly right. Victoria had found her place in Lucas's life, not by replacing what he'd lost, but by adding something entirely new. A love built on understanding, acceptance, and the beautiful courage to try again. As they left for their honeymoon that night, Eliza hugged them both tightly. "Mom would have loved her," she whispered to Lucas. Lucas looked at Victoria, radiant in her wedding dress, and smiled. "I know she would have. I think she sent her to us. And somewhere in the stars above Chicago, perhaps she had." Friends, if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, if it reminded you of the power we all have to change someone's life with a simple act of kindness, please don't just watch and walk away. Hit that subscribe button and join our Everbell Stories family.